Welcome to another All-Star edition of Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the MLB All-Star Break edition of Second City Sports, right here live in the 11 color on Sports Zone Chicago, all along with myself, Mr. Sidney Brown, Sid the Kid. That's me. That's Lakeena McGee over there. That is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKIDA0. SIDKIDA0. I know I messed up the intro, but it happens sometimes.
You changed them. You didn't have to. You played it off pretty well. So you can follow me at Kingdom McGee on the Twitter and at Kino_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so. That's why. And also, too, you can listen to any of all the 5 live shows throughout the week. If you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at any time, day or night. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. If you want to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, you can do so by finding Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this show, Second City Sports, please subscribe to our podcast at War or Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine box as you're ready. WARR on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe to Second City Sports, the podcast today. And speaking of War Media, you can follow them at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. You have any definite opinions on our topics we're going to cover during this 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show? You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid or just flat out be right out, as you young folks would say, ignorant, I will give Lakeena football to give you fools to bill and beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. And before we begin, let us not forget, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago, including Second City Sports, on Roku TV. That's right. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you have a Roku television already, just tap into the sports section and type in Sports Zone Chicago. Download that app today, and you can watch Sports Zone Chicago 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can watch our shows live as they happen, or you can watch them on demand for later. And if you don't have a Roku TV, that's okay. Just download that Roku TV app. You can access Sports Zone Chicago that way. So once again, you have a Roku TV, just tap into the sports section and type in Sports Zone Chicago. Download that app today. You can watch Sports Zone Chicago live in the 11 color, crystal clear HD TV, and we'll entertain you from there on. Lakeena, let's kick off this All-Star Break edition of Second City Sports, the Monday edition, by discussing baseball. It's pretty much going to be a baseball, at least the first hour anyway, the first hour of this program. But we'll start with our Chicago teams, and we'll head up to the South Side first. The Chicago White Sox ended the first half of the season with a 46-46 record after shutting out the Minnesota Twins yesterday by the score of 11-0. We said on this program last week, Lakeena, this is going to be the most important stretch for the South Side Hitmen for this season. It will determine whether this team can go to the playoffs or not. They finished the 8-game road trip with a 5-3 record, splitting the 4-game series in Cleveland and taking 3 out of 4 against the hated Minnesota Twins. Dylan Cease pitched to Master Jim yesterday, 8 strikeouts in 7 innings. Lance Lynn did not look good on the trip. It was one of the few Achilles heels that depleted the Sox to even having a better road trip. But Lakeena, we'll break this down. 5-3 record on the road trip. It could have been better, but I'll take it, especially the way this team has been playing all year long. They finally took it to the Minnesota Twins. Despite what happened on Saturday, I am encouraged, as of now, of what this team can do going forward.
Okay. I'm glad you are, because I'm not seeing it. Look, I know Dylan Cease is now, 9-2 after a loss when he's pitching, so I guess that helped a little bit. They were able to take advantage of some errors by the Twins. But again, if they do end up, they're 3 games out right now as we get into the All-Star break. I feel like this is, unless I see more of this is all fool's gold. This is all for naught. I feel like at this point of the season, it just shows that you're like just a little above average in the average division. That's it. And the consistencies and such, you saw it. Look, Lance Lynn, hopefully he can get together by the time you get back from the All-Star break. I know they supposedly have like the quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, easiest schedule. In the second half, they play the Guardians and the Tigers and the Twins a lot. So,
Lakeena gotta get her thoughts together, folks. But but here's the thing, Lakeena. I'll give you some encouragement for the White Sox. Gavin Sheets, he's been hitting the ball well for the last few weeks. He's had 3 home runs over the last 3 weeks. He had a couple of other bombs that almost got out of the yard at Target Field yesterday. Andrew Vaughn, perhaps the MVP of the series against the Twins. He had 7 RBI, 8 RBI, I should say, in a 4-game series against Minnesota Twins, 2 RBI or more in each of the 4 games of the series. He had another home run yesterday. Also, too, you had to look at Jose Abreu. As we always say, he gets off to a slow start in April and early May, but he turns it on with the batting average and with the power going into the month of June. Now in the month of July, he's continued that streak. And also, too, look at Tim Anderson. Ever since he's returned from injury a few weeks ago, he'll be starting the All-Star game tomorrow night. His energy, his bat has been very good for this White Sox team. He hit a home run in the second game in that series on Friday in Minnesota, which uplifted the team. Adam Engel, he replaced Luis Robert, who's suffering from head-like symptoms. He's come in and do well, and that bat has been very good for Adam Engel. Of course, he always brings the defense, but that bat has been surprisingly good as well. So Adam Engel, he had that 3-run home run on Friday. So that bat has it going for the White Sox right now. So if you're a White Sox fan, you have to be encouraged about what you see from this office. This office is starting to show some life. Josh Harrison, people around here, including yours truly, thought that Josh Harrison could have been in the next one DFA'd after Dallas Keuchel, but Josh Harrison starting to turn it around offensively. He had a big 3-run home run yesterday. So we see what's going on with this White Sox team. They're being patient, taking pitches and hitting pitches that they know that they get hit and taking advantage of the other team's mistakes. So that's what's been happening with the White Sox right now. And as I mentioned before, if you want to have your question or comment read on the air, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section, and it'll be up on the screen for you. And our guy, Money Earning Mount Vernon checks in. Vernon Family, I want to know if the Sox are going to need some icy hot during the break. Yeah, I'm sure some of them will, because injuries have played a part in this team's in this team's record this year. As I mentioned, they're 46-46 on the year. I know that, as I mentioned about Luis Robert, he hasn't played in the last couple of days. Eloy Jimenez hasn't played in almost a week, and so hopefully both those guys will return soon. But if you're a White Sox fan, you have to be encouraged by this offense. It looks like it's starting to turn around a bit. The only holes that are in this lineup right now is A.J. Pollock. I believe it's 2 of his last 36, somewhere around in there. He's been struggling right now. Also, to Reese McGuire, the backup catcher. He can throw guys out, but he's not hot at the plate. Sevi Zavala has had his moments, who replaced Yasmani Grandal in a lineup due to injury. He's been swinging the bat surprisingly well. So if you're a White Sox fan, offensively, you are encouraged, because they're putting up big numbers as we thought they were going to do early in the season. But it's just been inconsistent. Hopefully it could be consistent starting off the second half of the year. Now, on the flip side, what concerns me about the White Sox, Lance Lynn, as Lakeena mentioned, I didn't like what I've been seeing from him. I know this is his second month back from his injury that he started off the season on the injured list with that bad knee. But his last 2 starts have not been good. Last Monday's start in Cleveland was not good. This past Saturday start against Minnesota, if he didn't give up those home runs, the Sox win the game right there. So Lance Lynn, as I said to a couple people on social media over the weekend, Lance Lynn needs to have a 2005 Jose Contreras type hot streak if the Sox want to get to where they need to go as far as winning the division and going deep in a run in the playoffs. Lance Lynn needs to step up for this White Sox team. Be that veteran that he was brought over here to do and to lead these guys in that starting rotation. Johnny Cueto has been surprisingly good for the White Sox. Dylan Cease, as we talked about before, who should have been an All-Star, he had another great performance yesterday.
Yeah, and I think Cueto's probably been like one of the biggest surprises for this White Sox team. I mean, after him, I think he and Cease, we'll get to Cease and how he should be an All Star, but that's
Mhm,
in a whole other thing. But yeah, he's been actually really good. Nice little pickup for the Sox. Low risk, high reward so
mhm.
far. We'll see if he can keep it up at the in the second half. I mean, that's sort of been kind of like the thing, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, look, does the team have a biggest perhaps maybe put together a run and perhaps maybe take the Guardians and the Twins and take that lead in the AL Central? Sure, but will they do it? That's another thing with all the supposed like infighting and such. So I think that's another thing that's going to be sort of like the thing, the number one question as well.
Yeah, and also too, before you rejoined us, Lakeena, I made the comment that Lance Lynn, I didn't like what I saw on Saturday, giving up the home runs. If he didn't give up at least two of those three home runs, the White Sox would have won the game. His last two starts have been unimpressive to yours truly. I know he's still coming back from that injury that that sidelined him at the start of the season, but he needs to have a Jose Contreras type second half. Remember, Jose Contreras was struggling
Mm-hmm.
in that World Series season. The second half, he turned it on. He was one of the many reasons why the White Sox ended up winning the World Series this year. But Lance Lynn needs to have a strong second half. I think this All-Star break is going to do well for him and for the team. And he just needs to get back control. His location, especially with his fastball, has not been good, and other teams have been taking advantage of it, i.e. last Saturday against the Twins. So Lance Lynn needs this break. It's going to help him. He's going to be fresh, and we'll see what happens starting the second half. But he needs to have a 2005 Contreras type stretch for the White Sox to perhaps win the division and go into the playoffs.
And we'll see if he can. I mean, look, he's a veteran, so he knows this isn't his first rodeo. So he
Mm-hmm,
probably we'll see if he can, get it right and such. I mean, we'll see if Luis Robert can keep up what he's done at the plate. And Jose Abreu, he was starting to heat up a little bit those last, few games against the Twins. We'll see if he can get back
mm-hmm,
into it. Pollock's been really solid for the Sox so far. Gavin Sheets and Larry Garcia. Josh Harrison, who people were wondering like about a month ago, will he be DFA'd? He's actually been
mm-hmm,
pretty good. So look, I mean, we just need more consistency. I think this is a point of this the contentment where where is the consistency at? Where is it could be the
mm-hmm.
pitching and the hitting and such? So I think that's sort of one of the things that's going to be an interesting part for the Sox as we go forward in this. I mean, they've got the quote unquote easy schedule and whatnot, but you're still dealing with a whole lot of other issues going on with this team. I mean, if we can avoid injuries and such, sure, but I'm gonna need to see it first.
You listen to Second City Sports, live in living color, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, talking Chicago baseball. We'll turn our attention to the Cubs in just a couple of moments. Wrapping up on the White Sox, Lakeena. Now, looking at we'll probably give our grades out sometime during the next break. But the bullpen, Lakeena, Liam Hendriks, congratulations to him being named an All-Star. He was a late addition added to the American League team yesterday. I think the injury that he suffered 3 weeks ago knocked him out of contention of being an All-Star originally, but he deserved this honor, and congratulations to him. But quietly, outside of him, the rest of that bullpen, we talked about it all season, Lakeena, that middle relief has been a problem. That setup role at times has been a problem as well. Outside of Kendall Graveman and Ronaldo Lopez, that bullpen has been shattered by injuries and inconsistency all year long. But quietly, Joe Kelly has put on a run together. Matt Foster's been putting on a run together, and Ronaldo Lopez and Kendall Graveman. Graveman has been fatigued a little bit, but he's been pretty good this year. So the White Sox bullpen quietly it has been putting it together. But should they continue on this run within the next couple of weeks up until the August 2nd trade deadline, GM Rick Hahn needs to look at that strengthening that bullpen. They need another arm, in particular, a left-handed arm, perhaps two arms in that bullpen, but guess what? Just like starting pitching, everybody's looking for it, but everybody can't get it.
Yeah, like I said, we'll have to wait and see if Rick Hahn decides to make any move. Does he bring on that another middle relief and such? So they
Mm-hmm,
really need it. And again, it looks like the Sox are going to be buyers. Of course, they're in the AL Central and
mm-hmm.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that bullpen has become an issue again, especially that middle relief. So yeah, that's going to be the thing that Rick Hahn's going to have to address, and we'll have to wait and see. And it's sort of, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of wondering like okay, what's Rick Hahn's plan? It looks like, do you get another hitter? Do you get a middle reliever? Do you get another starter to eat up innings? We'll have to wait. Like I said, I mean, I'm sure we know Rick Hahn knows what to do, and he's pretty smart. So we'll see what he does. But I feel like, again, I'm gonna need to see more consistency here first before we start talking about, adding on, if you will.
Yes, we'll see what happens with the Sox. Now, switching over to the north side, the Chicago Cubs ended their 9-game losing streak yesterday by defeating the New York Mets by the score of 3-2. The Mets came out on fire early. Lakeena, Francisco Lindor, speaking of another former AL Central player, former Cleveland baseball player, now with the Mets. He stole second base, but he avoided the tag. And the runner on third base, I forgot who it was, stole home, and the Mets took an early 1-0 lead. They led 2-1, but the Cubs came back courtesy of Nico Hoerner's game-winning hit in the 8th inning. David Robertson shut it down in the 9th, so the Cubs ended their 9-game losing streak and avoided being swept by the New York Metropolitans by the score of 3-2 at Wrigley Field. Lakeena, this I'm sure we'll get deeper into this at some point during our next break. But the Cubs ended their 9-game losing streak. They showed the fight yesterday. Actually, they showed the fight 2 out of the last 3 games of the series. But you could clearly see that the Mets are the better team than they showed it over the weekend.
Yeah, Starling Marte was the one who stole home, and that whole thing was sort of weird.
Yeah.
I did the sort of like the shrugs moment, so I don't know what happened there. But I mean, look, I think the good news is they were able to overcome that and such. I mean, Hoerner, hit that, RBI single that scored. Was Contreras. Of course, we all know Contreras, was a stickler for that. But I mean, look, I think they were right there for like 2 of those 3 games. So it's not like, the Mets, kicked their butts and just, blew the doors off of them. But, look, I think, they put up a fight, and again, they'll probably, Jed Hoyer will probably trade Contreras and perhaps maybe Ian Happ and maybe even Kyle Hendricks and such. So, this Cubs team is going to look really different. You're going to have a lot of minor league guys and first year, second year guys. So, I mean, if you're a Cubs fan, you appreciate them putting up that fight. I mean, again, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, would you add closer David Robertson to that list as well? Perhaps another veteran being dealt if you can get something for him?
I mean, it depends on what you get for him. I think that's going to be sort of like the number one question. Like, if you do think about maybe perhaps trading Roberts, do you perhaps maybe get Kane? Again, I don't think Hoyer's going to trade anybody unless he can get some value for him. I don't think he's going to do it just because. He's one of those, he learned from Theo. So Theo Epstein, I mean, he's not going to trade by, just because, especially since you guys sell tickets out there at Wrigley. So I'm sure there's still going to be like maybe a couple of those veteran players that probably won't get traded. But again, we'll see. I mean, you've got some young guys on there, but I don't think we know they're not ready to win yet. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what Jed Hoyer does as it gets closer to the trade deadline.
Yes, and also you have to give manager David Ross credit for giving this guy in this team on how to play the game. And this team, whatever lineups that he throws out there on their field, they play hard, they play fundamentally sound. And no, they don't have the talent, as we said, coming to the season. But you don't get the impression that they're throwing their cleats out there and going through the motions. This team actually plays hard. They just don't have the talent right now.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the thing. But yeah, like I said, we'll see what he does. And look, I think the fact that David Ross should be committed for kind of keeping these guys sort of somewhat afloat, with everything that's been going on, off the field and all the stuff on the field and such. So yeah, definitely see what happens there. But yeah, we're gonna take a really quick break. We're gonna talk about the MLB as a whole. We'll give our grades for teams that have depressed us, including one team that's probably not too happy that the All-Star break's going on as we speak, and one team whose long-term winning streak, they get snapped. The Yankees get a much nearer series win against one of their rivals, and a couple additions to the All-Star game, and we'll also to preview the whole home run derby as well. Sid, Lakeena, Second Seed Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're going to talk more baseball right after this.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Line drive, base hit, center field. Contreras is going to try to score. The throw by Nimmo to the plate, the slide. Safe at the plate.
The action on the Cubs radio network, 3-2 the win over the Mets on Sunday. Nico Hoerner with a time-breaking RBI single with 2 outs in the 8th. The Cubs head into the All-Star break at 35 and 57, 14 and a half games out of first place in the National League Central. Sunday's victory snapped a 9-game losing skid. Huge win for the White Sox on Sunday, 11-0 the final over the Twins in Minneapolis. Dylan Cease threw a one-hitter over 7 innings. He improves to 9-4. The only hit allowed was a 5th-inning single. He also gave up a pair of walks. Chicago had 16 hits, including home runs by Yoan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, and Josh Harrison. White Sox closer Liam Hendricks has been added to the American League All-Star team. He'll join teammate Tim Anderson at the 2022 Midsummer Classic that's set for this Tuesday night at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Lightning Fast Sports Updates. Download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Staples has everything for school at great prices. So this year you won't go back to school. You'll be ready to move forward and master 5th grade math.
I can't do this. It's impossible.
Not you, Dad, your daughter. Staples will help her move forward.
Ah, right.
Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents each. Plus, 2 pocket paper folders are only 25 cents each. Everything on your list at amazing prices. Staples, we're not going back. We're going forward to school. Ends 8/27 in store only, limit 30.
Wendy's knows cold and soggy fries are the worst.
So soggy.
That's why we're serving up hot and crispy fries all day, every day.
And all night until close.
With natural cut potatoes, sea salted to perfection.
Show me that potato skin.
Wendy's hot and crispy aren't like other fries. We're your dream fry. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's hot and crispy fries.
Guaranteed to be hot and crispy. If yours aren't, bring them back and we'll replace them.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, live and in living color on this Monday post All-Star break edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. I misdirected my points. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us during this time, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And don't forget, you can catch us on Roku TV. If you have a Roku television, just go to that to that app in the sports section and type in Sports Zone Chicago, and you can catch us right there. Liam Hendricks likes it. You should love it too. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. Congratulations once again to Liam Hendricks. He's in LA right now. He'll represent the White Sox at tomorrow night's All-Star game. Lakeena, before we give our grades for the first half of the year, I want to get your thoughts about what did you see from the rest of MLB over the weekend? I got a couple of items to tackle here. The Milwaukee Brewers, in particular, their bullpen has been tired out. The San Francisco Giants took it to them over the weekend. The Boston Red Sox, they started out slow in the season. They picked it up, but being swept by Tampa Bay last week and now losing the series to the Yankees. And Chris Sale's pinky paid for it. I'll just say that. His pinky paid for it yesterday. The Red Sox, they're definitely in trouble right now. They looked bad in this series in the Bronx over the weekend.
Yeah, they really did. They were able to, the Yankees were able to take 2 out of 3. They won the rubber match last night. And yeah, that if you saw the replay of Chris Sale's pinky on his pitching hand, it didn't look good. And some are saying that he probably could be out for the rest of the season. Just when you thought that maybe the Red Sox were starting to kind of, get into a groove and whatnot, this sort of, freak accident happened. So, you hope nothing but the best for Sale. He hasn't had a good showing since he left Chicago for the Red Sox. Well, he was traded, but it's sort of one of those. Yeah, it's definitely but then, the Yankees are showing you why they've got the best record in MLB. They got 64 wins right now. So, I mean, they're up 13. I think, the Rays will get to them in a second. Tampa Bay is like the closest to them at 13. So, but it's really been their hitting that's kind of been sort of, kept them up there. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, others are just everybody's stepping up. So I'm sure
Yeah,
they're
Matt
gonna try.
Carpenter too with the mustache and all.
Oh yeah, that mustache. Not a big fan of Mr. Carpenter's stash, but during that weekend, let me see if I can get this stat up here. He became the fifth player in the expansion era. He has an OPS of at least 1.4. He has like 1.41, I believe, through his first 30 games of played of the season, minimum 90, and the previous three actually went on to win the MVP. So you wonder, could he be sort of right there in the MVP discussion? I mean, Barry Bonds did it twice in 02 and 04. Cody Bellinger did it a couple of years ago in 2019. So yeah, you got the hope. His name is probably going to be up there too for AL MVP consideration. So yeah, I think if you're a Yankees fan, you gotta be feeling pretty good where you're at, but you're gonna need to start, show up your pitching though.
Yes, and we'll get to our first half grades later on this break. But you have to be encouraged about what the Yankees starting pitcher has done. It was their Achilles heel the last couple of years. And we asked who's going to step up besides Garrett Cole, who had another great performance yesterday, 12 strikeouts in 7 innings as they blew out the Red Sox to take that series win. Nestor Cortez had a nice start to the year. So did Jordan Montgomery, but both of them have struggled a little bit here lately. You think both those guys would pick it up here as we start the second half later on this week. But if you're GM Brian Cashman, and I know his hair is not gray anymore, it's pure white. If he has any hair left, do you go out and make a move for a starting pitcher? You would think, right?
I would.
Because you have the offense.
I think you do. You got the offense, but we know in the playoffs it's pitching that really wins it for you. So hopefully, I'm sure Cashman will address that during the right before the trade deadline during this break. Hopefully, I'm sure they there's some names out there. We'll get to that in a little bit. Now, Seattle, my Mariners, they've won 14 in a row. I know they're not. They probably are not happy about the All-Star break coming up after sweeping the Rangers this weekend. That's the longest streak by a team heading to the All-Star break all time. Only 2 other teams have had 10-plus game win streaks going into the All-Star break and ended up winning the World Series. You got to go all the way back to 1935 and the Tigers, and the most recent was 1975 Reds, the Big Red Machine. So, it's been a while, but look, I mean, Ty France, who got in the All-Star game. Sorry about Mike Trout with your back spasms. Hope you feel better. But Ty France gets in the All-Star game. Julio Rodriguez as well, but both have kind of been leading the charge for that young, upstart Mariners team. They're still 9 games back of the Astros, but they're still like right there in the wild card distance. So I'm sure they're going to shore up their roster a little bit. That's a really good young roster there in Seattle. So they're definitely the hottest team in the majors still.
Yeah, I think both of us picked them to make the playoffs, so we'll see what happens going forward. But Ty France, congratulations to him on making the All-Star team. He hit a big home run yesterday, and then went at Texas to complete the sweep. Julio Rodriguez, perhaps maybe your front runner for American League Rookie of the Year. He's an All-Star this year. He'll represent the Mariners at the game tomorrow night. And so Seattle's been very good. Give manager Scott Service, a former Cub, by the way, on that 98 team, playoff team, credit for that. And it looks like Lakeena, ever since that fight over a month ago against the Angels, that was the team that people expected to fold the tempo. They turned it around since that fight last month.
Yeah, I think that literally fighting the Angels might have put some fight into the Mariners. That kind of woke them up a little bit. They've won 14 straight since then. So yeah, look, maybe that's what they needed. Maybe they kind of need to get that fire started in them in their belly. So yeah, it's it's pretty interesting, how that kind of worked out for them. But yeah, hopefully they can keep it up. I mean, it's gonna be tough, but hopefully they can still be right there for one of the wild card spots.
Yep. And speaking of the AL wild card hunt, the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays, those are the other two teams they'll be battling for those wild card spots. Baltimore's 10-game win streak came to an end on Saturday. They did still want in Tampa over the weekend on Saturday, to be exact, but Tampa Bay came back to beat Baltimore 7-5 yesterday to take 2 out of 3 in this series. Lakeena, Tampa Bay, they don't hit for a lot of power, as we said before this season, especially when they played the Sox early in the year. This team is fundamentally sound. They depend on their starting pitching, but Baltimore, They don't have the pitching yet, but they sure have some boppers in that lineup. We talk about Trey Mancini, Cedric Mullins, Newcastle. I really like that lineup going forward. They just got to get some strong starting pitching. That team could be dangerous in a couple of years.
Yeah, they really can, and I think this is sort of one of those teams where they probably won't contend for a wild card spot. I mean, they're in last place in the AL East, but I think they're showing that they're not going to be pushovers. So I think if you're a team and you're trying to fight for that playoff spot, you're not going to be able to take Baltimore very lightly. So I would say just look. That's a really good team, like you said. Maybe they kind of remind me of the Blue Jays a little bit, except without the all the Hall of Fame sons for some of those players. But I think that's you just mentioned a lot of the names. So yeah, we'll see how they look the second half. Now, will they still be able to keep up and sort of like be a thorn in some potential playoff team side? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yep. We'll have to wait and see. And staying in the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays, they take 2 out of 3 from the AAA Kansas City Royals. Could you tell the difference in the Royals team? For those of you that missed the story, Toronto, along with the country of Canada, still, if you're a visitor, you have to be vaccinated or else you cannot enter the country. So the Royals have 10 players who are not vaccinated, so they stayed back in Kansas City. It didn't matter, Lakeena. Toronto did what they had to do, take it 2 out of 3 going into the break.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't pretty on Friday. I think that I saw some of the comments from some of the other Toronto folks, and they were not. I actually have a couple of friends who live in Toronto. They were not very happy about them losing to like half the team from their AAA club. So they were not very pleased with that. So so it's interesting, but. You win 2 out of 3, and that was something they really needed. I'm talking about the Blue Jays, so they can still be right there and whatnot. So,
Oakland avoids being embarrassed in Houston. They take the finale in the state of Texas yesterday, winning 4-3 over the Astros. I'm still not worried about the Astros. They're one of the best teams in the American League. Perhaps you could argue that they're one of the best teams in baseball. Dusty Baker still has his teams more than competitive, but they have a great, strong bullpen. They still have a great, strong lineup with Jose Altuve. You say what you want about him, but his bat's still going strong at the top of the lineup. Yordan Alvarez, he's still good, but he's injured right now. They're young stud power hitter, but they're finding ways to get it done, Lakeena, and you have to give them credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's Houston. I'm like I said, I'm not like freaking out. Like, okay, yeah, they lost 2 out of 3 against the A's. Okay, they mentally they might have already been in the All-Star break. So, they still got one of the best records in the AL. They have 39-32. They're leading the division by, like I said, 9 games. Okay, so yeah, you lost 2 out of 3 against Oakland. Okay, big deal. Yep, whoop-de-doo. So you still look, Houston's Houston. They're probably still gonna end up winning the division and such. And look, I like what they're doing right now. I'm sure they'll probably shore up their pitching a little bit. Verlander, he's not gonna be able to play the All-Star game. So, but what a way what he's been doing. Coming back from not playing for almost 2 years. I mean, gotta love got that. Gotta love that for him. So yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be just fine. I think the Astros. It's okay, Houston fans, relax.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. We're talking national baseball right now. We'll get to our grades in just a few minutes. If you have a question or comment for us during this time that we're talking baseball, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's go to the National League. We talked about what the Mets did here in Chicago over the weekend, taking 3 out of 4 from the Cubbies. The Atlanta Braves failed to sweep the Nationals, but they're still right there behind the Mets in the NL East race. In the NL West, the Dodgers, they take care of the Angels with no problem. It looks like as of right now, it's going to be a 3-team race to who's going to have that top spot as far as the best record in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the races in the NL. You've got the Mets are leading the Braves by 2.5. Then you got the Brewers leading the Cardinals by only a half a game, and then the Dodgers won 4 in a row. They're like ahead by 10 games against the Padres. The Padres are starting to fall off. They're starting to show off those bad habits from last year. But yeah, we'll start with the Mets first. I mean, the Mets, they look. I think the Braves is going to be between them two. I think the Phillies, or they'll be right there for the wild card. I don't think that they're too far behind in the for the NL East, I should say. But yeah, I think the National League, I think, is going to be very interesting because you got as of right now, you got the Dodgers at 60. You've got the Mets right behind them at 58. So it's definitely going to be a bad. And I think they do play a couple of times in the second half, I believe. So this might be sort of the key of who will get that one spot in the NL.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the Dodgers. I know some LA fans to be trolling the fire Dave Roberts is not going to happen. Let it go. But the Dodgers are not that far from last year's pace. Remember, San Francisco was the surprise team last year, and they ended up winning the division. But the the Dodgers took care of the Giants in the division series last year. But the Dodgers, you think they'll boost up their starting rotation? I know Clayton Kershaw, he was injured early in the year, but he's having a bounce back season. You still have Tony Gonsolin, who's having a good year. Their left-hander Anderson is having a good year. But if you're the GM Andrew Freeman, you would think you could bolster up at least one more starter. They did it last year with Max Scherzer, and you saw what it paid off for them. You think it has some magic? It has some prospects left to pull off a trade for another starting pitcher?
Well, that's going to be the thing. Do they have any prospects left to trade? I mean, do the Dodgers have anybody in their minor league system that they can trade? Probably yes, because they do need some more pitching. So yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I know Buehler's going to be off for another another month or maybe another few weeks. So I'm interested to see what the Dodgers do. I'm sure. Look, their hitting's been same thing. Their hitting's been really solid and whatnot, but they really need to get that pitching staff. I mean, Gonsolin has been really good for them. He is among the leaders in wins, trailing Verlander, but they really need to get that extra, the extra oomph, the extra pitching, because I know that Kershaw flirted with a perfect game on Friday, but I think that you're gonna need that the extra starter, or at the very least get like a Cueto type to kind of eat up innings, if nothing else.
Yeah, and that's what the Dodgers need. I know that they have the lineup as we mentioned with Mookie Betts. I know Cody Bellinger has been struggling, but you figure that he'll turn it around hopefully in the second half. Of course, Chris Taylor, their utility player, he's injured right now, so he's going to be back at some time during the second half after the All-Star break. You still have Gavin Lux. Thank you, Tony La Russa, jump starting his season. And also you have my guy Justin Turner. He does not have the long hair just yet, but I know it's coming. But you know that he has a bunch of power in his bat playing third base. So I kind of like the where the Dodgers are headed. So like I said, it's gonna be 3-team race between them, the Braves, and the Mets for the best record in the National League. Let's stay with the National League, Lakeena, before we give our grades. The Mets. I know what they did here in Chicago over the weekend, but as we said before, let's give Buck Showalter credit for what this team has been doing this year, especially without Max Scherzer, who had a great performance in that makeup game on Saturday night. But it looks like Jacob deGrom is going to come back soon. That's going to make that Mets rotation even better. The question is, if you Sandy Alderson, their GM, are you going to add another bat at the trade deadline, in particular Wilson Contreras from the Cubs, or perhaps somebody else that we're not talking about?
Yeah, I mean the Mets, they need like new. We saw like those those couple of games, that game against the Cubs. They really need to kind of shore up that sort of beef up their infield as well. So I'm wondering, like, I think he will. I'm sure that will get addressed. Do you think, hey, you got Contreras, so you need a backup catcher, so why not? And you probably, I'm sure, if you're the Cubs, I'm sure you would love to, get something for them, because they got a pretty stacked minor league system over there with the Mets. So I'm looking to see what all these teams that we mentioned, the Braves, I'm sure the Braves are going to need to I know Free's been, great for them this year. He's probably going to be up there for NL Cy Young consideration, but they need pitching too. So I think and also too, maybe sort of shore of that, beef of that lineup as well. So the Dodgers are not gonna run away with the NL, the best record, because they got a tough schedule too after the break. So all these teams are going to be playing sort of like playing each other in some way. So it'll be the NL's going to be very interesting, especially for that top spot.
And the NL Central, the Milwaukee Brewers at 50-43, the Cardinals are 53-44. The Cardinals are trailing the Brewers by half a game. Of course, it was a rainout between the Reds and the Cardinals yesterday, so that game will be made up in the month of in September when the Reds return to St. Louis. Of course, I mentioned at the top of this segment about Milwaukee's struggles at San Francisco over the weekend. Lakeena, it looks like it's going to come down to another classic finish. Of course, last year St. Louis won 90 games, having a hot late August and of course in the month of September before losing that wild card game at the Dodgers. Of course, the Brewers were cruising last year. They barely held on to win the NL Central. Do you think it's going to be the same case this year? I don't think either. Both these teams are good, but I don't see any separation here to cruise. Baseball's a funny game, but I don't see either of these teams dominating this division in the second half. It's going to be a back and forth race.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. If you're a Brewers fan, should you be a little concerned since you lose 3 out of 4 to the Giants? Not a good way to start off your All-Star break, but I mean, look, this is going to be a seesaw battle between these two teams. I feel like, I mean, I think they play each other a lot in the second half, so this might be kind of like a ping pong thing where I think this is going to be a back and forth. Now, I will say the Brewers do have like a little bit of a tougher schedule. They play the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers multiple times, and that's kind of a murderer's. I don't want to say like a murderer's roll type second half, but that's not going to be tough. That's not going to be easy by any stretch. Now, I mean, the Cardinals do play the Mets and such, and they play the Mets a lot, and they play San Diego, they play the Cubs, the Rays, so and Boston as well. We'll get to Boston in a second, and Philadelphia too, and Atlanta. And the Dodgers. So both teams don't have very easy type scheduling coming up. So it's definitely going to be like the survival of the fittest, if you will, in this division.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color on a Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, it's time to give out our awards, should we say, our awards/grades. The most disappointing team in MLB this season, you have Tampa Bay. You can cross your Mariners off that list thanks to their 14-game winning streak currently, but you have San Francisco, Tampa Bay, the White Sox.
I'll say Tampa just because I figured that this is going to sound weird, but I felt the White Sox were going to struggle because of the fact that this roster isn't But yeah, they've had injuries. I'm talking about. I think they lost one of their top guys, Ramirez, too, to a broken thumb. So he's going to be out for the year, I think. Harold Ramirez, to a broken thumb. I think he's going to be gone for a while at least. So the injuries have definitely been piling up for the Rays. That's kind of been the big problem for them. Now they showed they got together a little bit. We'll see if they can do it in the second half. I mean, they won 2 out of 3 against the Orioles, a hot Orioles team. So we'll see what they do if they can kind of keep it up.
I was debating between the White Sox in Boston and Toronto. Of course, Toronto, they won 2 out of 3 against Kansas City after firing their manager, Charlie Montoya, last week. Boston has looked terrible the last couple of weeks, but I think for overall in the first half of the season, I'm giving it to the White Sox, not because I'm a fan, but we expected more for this team, Lakeena. We expect another maybe low 90 win season for the Sox. Maybe the second half it'll end up that way, but as of right now, even though they're playing well going into the break, winning 5 out of the last 8 games, it's the White Sox. Yes, a big part of it is injuries, but the players that you expected to perform they've been inconsistent. Of course, the bad defense and the bad base running. We talked about it a million times, Lakeena. Even though they look great as of late, I still have to give it to the White Sox. They could turn it around starting in the second half when they host the Guardians for the big 4-game series in 3 days on the South Side.
Yeah, they're definitely I would say the Red Sox are probably just a little bit ahead of the White Sox for me as far as disappointment. They're now 0-10-1 in series against their fellow division rivals. And just so you know that the second half of their schedule is mostly going to be their division rivals. So if you're trying to get one of those wild card spots, if you're the Red Sox, you better get it together quick, because if not, we know you probably won't be able to catch the Yankees, but you better try. You're going to be fighting the Guardians. You're going to be fighting perhaps the White Sox. You're going to be fighting the Mariners in that division. So. And I'll also say Toronto too, for all the reasons you said. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of hard to figure out the Red Sox at this point, and especially with that Chris Sale injury, I think that's probably not going to help their cause either. Now, I'll say my biggest surprise. I can't really say, but I guess if you want to, I guess process of elimination, I guess you say the Twins, because I think no one thought that maybe they probably would be in their first place in the AL Central going into the All-Star break. With all the signings and stuff, no one really knew what the Twins were doing, but I guess they knew what they were doing. So at least so far, I know they lost 3 out of 4 against the White Sox, but I think getting their rest and recharge. No injuries have kind of gotten to them as well, but they've been to sort of stay afloat a little bit. So, but we'll see what happens from here for them.
Yeah, like I said, Dylan Bundy has been a nice surprise for the Twins as the starting pitcher. Sonny Gray, as we talked about coming into the year, he's been slightly above average as the start of that rotation, but their bullpen stinks. I know they're going through injuries too. I know their pitching coach left for LSU a couple of weeks ago, and that's what's starting on their current slide right now, even though they're hanging on to a 3-game lead. I'm going to say the Baltimore Orioles, Lakeena, because we did talk about them a little bit early in the season when they were beating up on the Yankees. And, of course, that was one of the few struggles that the Yankees have had so far in this first half of the year. But Baltimore, as we mentioned, they have a great offensive talent. They just don't have the pitching yet. I would say Seattle, but me, pundits, including yours truly, expected Seattle to be there. Of course, it wasn't what they do right now. Is a little bit unconventional what we thought they were going to do for this first half of the year. But my surprise team is Baltimore.
Yeah, I think Baltimore's up there too, and their surprises. We'll see if they can keep it up. I mean, at least sort of, if they can, finish right there near 500. I think if you're an Orioles fan, you'll take that. I'll add another team for like the disappointments. I'll say the Padres. I know they've had some injuries as well, but I don't know. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I know Juan Soto's name has been floating around as perhaps maybe a landing. The Padres, of course, because they got the sort of like the stat that probably the Nats won, but look, you turned out $400 million. You want to play for a winner, so I don't know if you're Soto, do you want to go to San Diego? I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think? What do you think about that whole thing with Soto? And then real quick before we're up, I know we're up against it, but yeah, tell me a little bit what do you think about that whole thing with Soto over the weekend?
I don't think it's about the money, Lakeena. I think it's about, from an outsider's perspective, what kind of club are you going to build around me if you want to commit to me long term? We saw that Bryce Harper left for the cash for Philadelphia. Philadelphia hasn't made the playoffs. It's not because of Bryce Harper. It's because they don't have enough pieces around him. If I'm Ron Soto, yes, I'm a World Series champion from 2019. They had a good enough team to win a World Series, and they did it beating Houston in a classic Game 7. But if you want to keep me around, what do we have besides yours truly? Speaking in terms of Juan Soto, besides me, what else do you have? If you're not going to build around me, I want to leave too. I know I'm going to get paid, but if you want me to stay there, show me the commitment. What's your plan on getting the players that are needed to build a great team around me?
That's going to be the thing. And so, again, like I said, I'm sure the Padres, the Dodgers. I don't know if the Yankees have much of anything to give to the Nats. I'm sure the Yankees fans going to want him, but yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But yeah, this is going to be to be continued. We're going to be hearing a lot of this from this next week at least.
Yeah, because if Washington is going to trade him, they're going to ask for a lot, and so like you said, who's going to pay that price tag to get Juan Soto's services? It should be interesting in these next 2.5 weeks coming up.
All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. We got a lot to talk about still. Buddy Mark Grote from 670 Score and Bears Sign of the Poor will be joining us as the Bears will start training camp this weekend. Also, too, we're going to have other stuff and more. We'll have the Open Championship. We'll recap that. A big showing by one guy while another guy sort of, fell off the wayside. And also, too, some other stuff, too. And also, too, feeling old with the MLB draft. Some familiar names for drafted. Get ready to feel old, folks. Along with Cindy Brown, I'm Lakeena McGee, the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. And hour number 2 coming up in just a bit.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Line drive, base hit, center field. Contreras is going to try to score. The throw by Nimmo to the plate, the slide. Safe at the plate.
The action on the Cubs radio network, 3-2 the win over the Mets on Sunday. Nico Horner with a time-breaking RBI single with 2 outs in the 8th. The Cubs head into the All-Star break at 35 and 57, 14 and a half games out of first place in the National League Central. Sunday's victory snapped a 9-game losing skid. Huge win for the White Sox on Sunday, 11-0 the final over the Twins in Minneapolis. Dylan Cease threw a one-hitter over 7 innings. He improves to 9-4. The only hit allowed was a 5th-inning single. He also gave up a pair of walks. Chicago had 16 hits, including home runs by Yohan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, and Josh Harrison. White Sox closer Liam Hendricks has been added to the American League All-Star team. He'll join teammate Tim Anderson at the 2022 Midsummer Classic that's set for this Tuesday night at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Lightning Fast Sports Updates. Download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Staples has everything for school at great prices. So this year you won't go back to school. You'll be ready to move forward and master 5th grade math.
I can't do this. It's impossible.
Not you, Dad, your daughter. Staples will help her move forward.
Right.
Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents each. Plus, 2 pocket paper folders are only 25 cents each. Everything on your list at amazing prices. Staples, we're not going back. We're going forward to school. Ends 8/27 in store only, limit 30.
Wendy's knows cold and soggy fries are the worst.
So soggy.
That's why we're serving up hot and crispy fries all day, every day.
And all night until close.
With natural cut potatoes, sea salted to perfection.
Show me that potato skin.
Wendy's hot and crispy aren't like other fries. We're your dream fry. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's hot and crispy fries.
Guaranteed to be hot and crispy. If yours aren't, bring them back and we'll replace them.
You know, it's I don't. Oh, it's gonna be.
Welcome. Yeah, I love those rejoins. I gotta wait for those. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're live in living color on the all-new Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. Finally got the right point this time, right direction this time. You can follow me on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And don't forget, Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV, so you can catch Second City Sports on any of our other 5 live shows throughout the week. You can watch us live in living color, or you can watch us on demand later. Justin Fields likes it. You better like it too. Get up, Chicago. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the Sports app and type in Sports Zone Chicago. If you don't have a Roku TV, you can download the app, go to the sports section, type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can access our great programming today and for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Lakeena, as we wait our guest to join us, Mr. Mark Grote, friend of the show from 670 Score. He's our fill-in host, and he's the Bears sideline reporter from the flagship News Radio 780 WBBM and 105.9 FM. Lakeena, let's get into our hot conversation now, and you can bring in our good guests to talk Bears football and more.
He's a friend of the show. Of course, say you kind of just covered like about a minute, like a couple of seconds ago. He's a fill-in host over at 670 The Score and on BBM News Radio 780. That's the Bears Radio Network. He does silent reporting. He's doing it the last about the last few years. And of course, friend of the show, big supporter of ours. He's the one, the only, the very handsome Mark Grote. Mark, how are ya?
Oh, well, I'm blushing now. Thank you so much, you guys. Great to be back on the show with y'all.
Oh, always. Oh, you got the Nirvana shirt going. I like that. All you 90s, early 90s rocker fans out there.
You're making us all feel old here, Lakeena.
I know. Oh, God, I know, right? But all right, let's get to serious stuff first before we get to like the fun stuff. But new regime for the Bears. We talked about it ad nauseam. We all have at various platforms. What are your expectations, if there are any, for the Bears this year?
Well, I don't know. Somehow, some way, I managed to come up with an 8-9 record for the Bears. So I suppose that's my expectation for the Bears this season. I did it, went through all the schedule, live on the radio, going through each game and doing the win, lose, and I came up with 8-9. But there really shouldn't be heavy expectations for the Bears this year because they simply haven't added a whole lot of difference-making dynamic players. As a matter of fact, they have subtracted from that pool with, I suppose, Khalil Mack being the poster child for that. They did not bring back Akeem Hicks, and we can go through all sorts of different players on the roster that are no longer here. But it looks like a roster of teardown right now than building up. And I think that, that portends well for the future, but probably not this year.
And speaking of the roster, Mark, of course, the Bears made a transaction last week, picking up wide receiver N'Keal Harry from New England. We all know the head coach Bill Belichick, or so we call him on this show, Bill Belichick. He doesn't get rid of the players for no reason. There's always a reason behind him getting rid of players like that. Where do you expect from Mr. Harry to bring to this offense? As of right now, we don't know what this offense is going to look like. We assume it's going to be a heavy run offense, but I know why they made the move to get depth on the roster, but do you see something differently why this move was made last week?
I think they're taking a flyer. I think it's pretty common with teams that are in a rebuilding process. You can afford to take a chance on a guy, especially on a guy who is entering the final year of his rookie contract. If you listen to what they're saying in New England, the word bust comes up over and over and over because he was a first-round pick a few years ago. So it's not a heavy cost for the Bears. Can they somehow, some way maximize the potential with N'Keal Harry that apparently the Patriots were not able to? He's a big body, so he brings that dimension to the team. And I think, like so many other, I think we're all probably on the same page, or at least I think everybody is. When it comes to the Bears receiving crew, it's Darnell Mooney. And then, hey, there's open tryouts for Bears wide receiver. Obviously, Byron Pringle is a guy who a lot of people think could step in to be that second wide receiver this year. Velus Jones Jr., the rookie, is an exciting possibility and interesting to think about in that regard. Equanimeous St. Brown, I guess you could kind of put in the same category as N'Keal Harry, as in, let's take a chance on a guy who was somewhat highly regarded, and for whatever reason, it did not work out in his previous stop. In the case of Equanimeous St. Brown, that was in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, and the former for some of the time with N'Keal Harry with Tom Brady. So I don't know if there's any sort of pattern to those two guys in particular not working out with elite quarterbacks, and those guys tend to be a little bit more fickle and know exactly who they want catching the ball and who they trust, and they're allowed to, I think, it's interesting to think about it because those guys, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, they are allowed to probably tell the coach, hey, here's who I'm comfortable with, here's who I'm not comfortable with. So I suppose if you're a Bears fan, you could look at that and say, well, maybe that was the product of just not being on the same page as those quarterbacks. Obviously, N'Keal Harry has not been dealing with Tom Brady in the last couple of years, but Brady was there on his watch, and a stumbly start for him. So it'll be interesting. That's going to be one of the big storylines for the Bears in this camp is the wide receivers and who's in and who's out.
Well, keeping up with the offense, that O-line, I'm a little concerned. Now, other than Cody Whitehair, and Larry Borum too. I know he showed some flashes last year. He's a little bit banged up, but you got Tevin Jenkins. We'll see if he can make it through without injury. Willie Wright, Lucas Patrick, a guy they picked up. What's sort of like the key for them to kind of keep Justin Fields upright? That's kind of like the number one concern I think for a lot of Bears fans I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, I think one of the key parts is going to be running the football, I think, and Bears fans don't want to hear this, but there's going to have to be probably a fairly conservative brand of offensive football. That doesn't mean they're going to, run it every single time and it's going to be old school Bears or old school football. But I think that it's pretty obvious that the Bears have not figured out the configuration for their offensive line. They did not draft anybody with their higher picks with offensive line. There are 5 rookies, obviously, that they went out and got this year. Or 4 rookies that they drafted that may have promise, but it's from the 5th round down. So it's kind of a crapshoot with those guys. I do think that I would like to see, and you mentioned them all, Lakeena. Like I do want to see Tevin Jenkins at right tackle, Larry Borum at the left tackle. We're either going to see Lucas Patrick at center or guard at this point, and no doubt Cody Whitehair will be there. That leaves a guard position open for the Bears. Will it go to Sam Mustipher? Could it be one of the rookies? Zach Thomas got some play in the earlier portions of the preseason so far this year, as in the rookie camps and the OTAs. Not sure if that's something to look into, but yeah, they have a lot of figuring out to do, and you can't mess around. And that's why I'm pretty adamant on Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum, although neither of them has proved themselves fully to be 17-game offensive linemen. That at this point, they're more advanced than the guys that are on the roster. So it's a tricky situation, and it's going to be fascinating to see who sort of steps up at offensive line, who becomes and who is highlighted that maybe we're not thinking about, what truly is the configuration, and then go from there. And like I said, it all of this certainly feels like a pretty conservative offense.
Mark Grote, he's a fill-in host at 670 The Score. He's also the Bears sideline reporter for WBBM News Radio. He's joining us right here on Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you live in Living Color on Sports Zone Chicago. Mark, I know training camp starts next week, but Matt Eberflus, at least watching a couple of his pressers throughout mini camp, of course, his introductory press conferences from a few months ago. I get the sense that he's going to take it back to Lovie Smith old school style, and getting the players in shape and really being committed into at least on the defensive side of getting the turnovers and creating turnovers and playing fast, and also from a coaching philosophy, he's going to hold players accountable, which this team desperately needs after what we saw from Matt Nagy's teams the last couple of years. Do you get that same impression from Mr. Eberflus?
Yeah, Sydney, that's a really good comp, the Lovie Smith days for sure. And it's a similar style of offense, the gang tackling, everybody goes for the ball, aggressive, fast, everybody's part of it. You're not going to see anybody, or at least in theory, you won't see anybody loafing. And I can tell you that just from the practices that I've been able to watch in the OTAs, it is a faster brand of football. And this is, I always like make sure that I say this is not to denigrate Matt Nagy's training camps and preseason stuff. There's plenty to critique Matt Nagy on, but I never saw training camp or the speed of practices as a problem. That said, the Matt Eberflus style of practice, it is faster. It is faster. It is more aggressive. It is more active. It is louder. Literally, you could hear, players. There's more talking. So it is a different style, and it'll be interesting to see because they're gonna, with some of the talent gone from the Bears that I just mentioned, at the beginning of my segment here with Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks and others, you're going to be depending more on system than you are individual talent and splash plays. And if you can get everybody to buy in, that doesn't look like it's built necessarily to be an elite defense, but you can be a competent and maybe even good defense if everybody buys in, and if you are earnest about your hustle and wants and all of that stuff, that those sort of words, those sort of things are, that they are eligible in a defense like this. So it'll be fascinating to see how it all goes down.
What about Eddie Jackson? Keeping up with sort of like the defense, because Eberflus is a defensive guy. Are we going to see a little bit of a fraction of the Eddie Jackson we saw early on? I know he's kind of fallen off these last few years. Well, this new style, a new coordinator, and a head coach who is defensive minded. Do you see him perhaps maybe being kind of like a little echo of the early Eddie Jackson that Bears fans fell in love with?
Yeah, it's funny, Lakeena, because we've been doing this or trying to answer that question since 2018, and it's the right question, and every year it just hasn't gotten back up to that level. I don't think Eddie Jackson's been bad. I don't think he's had a bad year last year, but he's just not making the big time dynamic plays that he made in 2018 when he was an absolute legit all-pro, Pro Bowl player. I can tell you that Eddie Jackson has been, very upfront in saying that he likes this defense. When asked why, he said it's a simpler defense. There's not as much to think about. And I'm going to be interested to see who, or if Jaquan Brisker, the Bears' third-round safety or second-round safety, if Jaquan Brisker is to be the starter at safety, it's going to be, I think, on paper, it's a good partnership for him, and that could help him because Brisker is interested in being a strong safety. He likes the physical play. He likes the tackling part of the game, which we know that Eddie Jackson has not been as adept at, even going back to his Alabama days. Eddie Jackson's strength, his superpower is getting the football and making big plays, and Jaquan Brisker's is being physical and tackling, and he also is capable of getting to the ball and forcing fumbles and things like that. So I'm hoping that maybe this part, and again, Travis Gibson was very good with Eddie Jackson as well, but there's something that just seems more pure about Jaquan Brisker as a strong safety, and hopefully Eddie Jackson is like literally, feeling free as the free safety this year. But it would be really nice to get Eddie Jackson playing back at a level comparable to 2018 for sure.
Staying with that defense, Mark, of course, Roquan Smith is one of the best young linebackers in the NFL, perhaps the best young linebacker in the NFL. I know he's looking for a contract extension. I know the Bears are supposed to have the most cap space after this upcoming season in the next offseason. I'm speaking as a fan now. Can the Bears get it together, resign him, please?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Roquan Smith. They've been very quiet when we've asked about it. As you guys probably know, Roquan Smith is his own agent. Now that may have changed in the last 30 days or so since we last spoke to Roquan Smith, but I guess there has to be the desire. And he said he wants to be a Bear. He did say he wants to be a Bear. That's what he's saying publicly, and hopefully that desire is earnest, because if it is, I would imagine that they would go towards an extension with him. However, not signing Roquan Smith kind of falls in line with everything else the Bears have done or not done this offseason. Going back to the original point I made when you asked the question about Ryan Poles and what is he doing? Well, they're not signing big-time dynamic players. And the other part of this is that, they churned out some pretty good linebackers in Indianapolis, did Matt Eberflus on Matt Eberflus's watch. And I don't know how highly they regard the linebacker position in terms of, I know they regard it highly. I should put it differently in terms of how much talent do they think that they could go into next year's draft and draft the next Roquan Smith, because they can turn that linebacker into something like Roquan Smith. And this is me just throwing stuff at the wall because we don't know where they land theoretically on that position, and giving out big contract extensions right now in a year that it's obvious that it is a year to rebuild this Bears team. And do they look at Roquan Smith as a building block? I don't know. I do not know where Ryan Poles lands on that. So it's going to be interesting to see. I love Roquan Smith. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, even objectively, he's been one of the only veterans that has showed up to every single practice this year in the preseason so far. He's been everywhere, and he looks better and faster and stronger than I've ever seen him. And I think he's ready to maybe get recognized a little bit more nationally. And I think he could, because I think that he's been kind of ripped off in that regard too. But yeah, it's that'll be a question when we get to training camp on July 26th for sure.
Do you think, piggybacking off of that, with Robert Quinn, do you see Robert Quinn even coming to training camp because all the various, trade rumors and such?
I got a feeling he's going to be there just because, unless we hear something in the next week that he's either been traded or that he's not going to show up. And there's so much of the OTAs and the mini camps, some of them are voluntary. There was the mandatory mini camp where he did not show up. I think that Robert Quinn is at a point in his career where it's quote unquote okay for him to not be there for that. And, he's got to be a little disappointed. This is not the team that he signed up for. This was not the regime for which he signed up. So at this point, as a veteran, he's got that power. He has the power of having had 19 sacks last year. But my gut tells me that he will be in camp. And then we're going to see from there, will he make it through the rest of the camp without being traded? I'm not sure. A good guess, too, would be that he does start the year with the Bears, and then at the trade deadline, he goes someplace, and the Bears get a second or a third-round pick out of it.
Mark Grote from 670 The Score. He's the Bears silent reporter for News Radio 780 and 105.9 WBBM is joining us here on Sports Zone Chicago. Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you, real live and in living color. Okay, Mark, you talked about the safeties earlier. I want to get into the defensive backs. Jalen Johnson is, when healthy, he's one of the top corners in the league. Who else is going to be paired up with him this year, barring injury, of course?
Well, ideally, you hope that the Kyler Gordon can be that guy. Now, Kyler Gordon spent a lot of time not practicing when last we saw him for whatever reasons. Not sure if it had something to do with signing his contract or if he was actually injured, but we were never given a straight answer on what's going on with him. So I think he's the ideal. Kindle Vildor is still there, and he's been running with the ones a decent amount of time. If not, with the ones, he's been with the twos. He struggled last year and ultimately was benched. So I don't know how they see him. I think, another guy that has been noticeable this year in training camp at the nickel has been Thomas Graham. I know that's not what you asked. You asked about who they'd pair up with Jalen Johnson this year, but he's somebody to watch. I don't know if they look at him as, just as that slot guy, or maybe they try to pair him up some if they liked what they saw out of him this year so far in the preseason stuff. But I think Kyler Gordon is what they're really zoning in on. Kyler Gordon was their first pick this year, the second round, albeit a second round pick, but he's got the talent and the skill. I don't know if, with the practices he's missed so far, how far that's going to set him back, and if they may be leaning on Kindle Vildor to take that spot at first. But yeah, I think I'd love to see Jalen Johnson, hopefully Jalen Johnson takes the next step forward, but it'd be great to see him up there with Gordon.
We've been talking for about 20 minutes, Mark, and we have not mentioned Justin Fields. so we might as well go ahead and just do it. New regime, sort of, Luke Getsy's offense, N'Keal Harry, I think, look, he was very talented from Arizona State. What's the ceiling for Justin Fields this year?
Such a great question. And I think that he's got to show that no matter what the Bears record is, no matter what the skilled position guys are like, he has to show this regime that he is a good to more than good quarterback. I'm hesitating using the word elite. I don't know if that's in the cards for Justin Fields this year, just because I feel like he fell behind last year with some of the positions that he was put in with the Bears, and it's all new. He's learning a new offense. We've talked about the weapons not necessarily being at a 10, but good quarterbacks are supposed to make mediocre, the weapons better. That we've seen that is what good quarterbacks do. So somewhere along the line, I don't know if it's going to be in the first few games of the year, middle of the season, or even towards the end, he has to show the coaching staff and everybody, I'm sure fans too, that this is a guy who's going to be good, and then maybe we start to talk about very good and elite and all of that kind of stuff that we want for Justin Fields. But he needs to take that next step, or maybe take 2 or 3 more steps, because I felt like last year was an incomplete, and he struggled a lot, holding on to the football at times, presence of mind. He's got a lot of learning to do as well. So it's going to be interesting, but he will be, Lakeena, you said gone 20 plus minutes in this interview. We'll probably go about 30 seconds in training camp when we report before we're asking about Justin Fields. But I appreciate the break. I appreciate it.
Last moment or two with Mark Grote from 670 Score and WBBM Bears Sideline Reporter right here on Second City Sports. We're live in the 11 color on Sports Zone Chicago. Mark, let's get into baseball. My Chicago White Sox won 5 out of the 8 games on their recent road trip. They're 46-46, 3 games behind the Twins at the All-Star break. Do you see this hot streak continuing when they resume play on Friday against the Cleveland Guardians, or will we still continue to see inconsistent baseball on the South Side?
Well, unfortunately, the way things have gone, man, it's like I would hate to say it. You just said you're a Sox fan, but I think the latter. I mean, every time the White Sox have gotten hot or showed some steps forward or momentum or salvaging wins, it starts to either even out and go back to average or below average. So the season would tell you, don't have high expectations out of the gate. It was a really promising series. It was a terrific series the White Sox had against Minnesota, taking 3 out of 4 and doing it decisively in that series. It was great to see the big bats come back out. You can think optimistically that, okay, this is because that was kind of the team that they thought they had. They thought they were going to have really good starting pitching and that the bats were going to be bombing away. And there is precedent set for this team in past years that they can scald the baseball. So it's not completely out of the question that they will take off from here. But I'm going to remain skeptical, just because there's been too many mistakes, physical errors, mental errors, hitting slumps, all of that kind of. The injuries are real or have been real, and will they continue to be real? So while I loved what I saw out of the White Sox on that road trip, splitting with Cleveland wasn't great, but taking 3 out of 4 from the first place team, that did give me some optimism. But I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna hold off for now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I won't ask you a Cubs question because we know the Cubs are probably going to be. But last question. Instead, I'm going to ask you about the Bulls real quick. Got a solid, summer league record. Dalen Terry, thankfully, that hamstring injury he suffered in the last game wasn't serious. All the various rumors about KD, it's not happening. So what do you expect? Do you see AK and Eversley making any moves, or do you see status quo and this is going to be where they're going to be, who they are from the start of the season?
Yeah, I think that they have, with the signing of Andre Drummond and Goran Dragic, it seems to me that unless they've got some whopper up their sleeves, that's what they're going to war with in this season. And so then it becomes a matter of, can the current guys on the roster go to that next step? Will Patrick Williams start to realize his talent and why they drafted him where they drafted him? is there a next level for Zach LaVine? And let's face it, Zach LaVine had a quiet year. It was probably mostly because of the knee injury, which he had cleaned up. And hopefully he will be, now that he's got the $215 million in his pocket, that he can not worry about that and take his game to the next level. Can we depend on DeMar DeRozan for being a superstar again this year? I mean, that last year was his best year, and can he do that again? And then, of course, there's Lonzo Ball, and we all saw where the team went when Lonzo Ball was injured last year. The Bulls were riding high with him, and then when he left, no longer were they doing that, and they never really had comfort at the point guard position. Ayo Dosunmu, who I didn't mention, who hopefully he'll take the next step too. He played admirably at times at point guard, but you could tell that that's not the most comfortable place for him. At least I don't think so. And Kobe White, another interesting guy who maybe he's got another level, but I tend to think that he is what he is, and that's a guy who's going to be real hot and real cold sometimes. And, that's a good guy to have on your team because sometimes he can come in and heat it up off the bench. He does make a lot of good fourth quarter shots, but we know that there are some definite inconsistencies in his game. So the Bulls and AK and Mark Eversley and Billy Donovan are really going to be depending on the next level for these teams and hopefully health for Lonzo Ball.
All right, that's been Mark Grote of 670 The Score, and he's the Chicago Bears sideline reporter for WBBM News Radio. Mark, great job as always. Thank you so much for joining us today right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Training camp is starting next week. Yours truly, personally, Mrs. Bourbonnais, but I know you're getting ready for that blazing hot sun in Hallis Hall.
Yeah. The sun shines in Hallis Hall, just maybe not quite as blazing hot as Bourbonnais. But yeah, we are ready, man. I got my sunscreen and my dry fit shirts and shorts and ready to go.
And the sunglasses too, remember?
Oh yeah. Got my sunglasses and I got to pick out a baseball cap. That's the uniform.
well, very casual. Love it. All right, we love you, Mark. We definitely gonna get you back on, perhaps maybe during the bye. Great job as always. Check him out on 670 The Score. I don't know if you're gonna be filling in, any more this week, and of course, training camp starting later this week and into next week. So, Mark, we love you and hope to talk to you again during the season.
Lakeena and Sydney, thanks a lot. Looking forward to talking to you guys soon.
All right, thank you, Mark.
All right, stay safe.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All
Have
right.
a good show. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. So we love having him here. So I gotta
Yes.
towel off for a second.
Yes, we got to cool up, but we got to get ready for the home stretch.
Yes.
We still got a baseball picks to come up with in terms of the home run derby tonight. We got to get to the Open Championships and golf. We have some thoughts on that, and we have some breaking news from Chicago's West Side hockey team. Oh, we'll get into that, and we're gonna wrap up today's show with Old School TV Monday. You guys are going to love this pick. Lakeena, I don't know if you know it or not, you little sneaky self, but Yoshio has a lot to say about this show for this week for our Salute to Old School TV Monday. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Back to put a big old bow on today's show right after this. You're listening to Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Line drive, base hit, center field. Contreras is going to try to score. The throw by Nemo to the plate, the slide. Safe at the plate.
The action on the Cubs radio network, 3-2 the win over the Mets on Sunday. Nico Horner with a time-breaking RBI single with 2 outs in the 8th. The Cubs head into the All-Star break at 35 and 57, 14 and a half games out of first place in the National League Central. Sunday's victory snapped a 9-game losing skid. Huge win for the White Sox on Sunday, 11-0 the final over the Twins in Minneapolis. Dylan Cease threw a one-hitter over 7 innings. He improves to 9-4. The only hit allowed was a 5th-inning single. He also gave up a pair of walks. Chicago had 16 hits, including home runs by Yoan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, and Josh Harrison. White Sox closer Liam Hendricks has been added to the American League All-Star team. He'll join teammate Tim Anderson at the 2022 Midsummer Classic that's set for this Tuesday night at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Lightning Fast Sports updates. Download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Staples has everything for school at great prices. So this year you won't go back to school. You'll be ready to move forward and master 5th grade math.
I can't do this. It's impossible.
Not you, Dad, your daughter. Staples will help her move forward.
Right.
Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents each. Plus, 2 pocket paper folders are only 25 cents each. Everything on your list at amazing prices. Staples, we're not going back. We're going forward to school. Ends 8/27 in store only, limit 30.
Wendy's knows cold and soggy fries are the worst.
So soggy.
That's why we're serving up hot and crispy fries all day, every day.
And all night until close.
With natural cut potatoes, sea salted to perfection.
Show me that potato skin.
Wendy's hot and crispy aren't like other fries. We're your dream fry. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's hot and crispy fries.
Guaranteed to be hot and crispy. If yours aren't, bring them back and we'll replace them.
Gotta love the.
You could talk over that one because that one doesn't have sound.
Okay. Yeah, you still
That
gotta
just-
love those rejoins, though. Gotta love those rejoins. Welcome back to our last segment of the show for today. Oh, Second City Sports Live and Living Color, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Kingdom McGee on the Twitter and at Kingdom_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 20 minutes left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, you want to start out with the West Side hockey team or golf first?
Let's do the golf first and get that out the way. Congrats to Mr. Cameron Smith. No, not our buddy Cameron Smith from Stadium. No,
not the one
that
from Bally Sports and Watch
No.
Stadium.
Yeah, I'll say not that Cameron Smith. This is Cameron Smith from Australia. And he's been knocking on the door. He's already got the Players Championship. He won that a couple of months ago. So he was actually right there too with the Masters. Unfortunately, Scotty Scheffler and his hot putting. Now Smith has some hot putting too. Became the only player over the last 20 years to bury the first 5 holes of that back nine in the final round of the Open Championship or any major for that matter. Breaking the record that was previously held by Phil Mickelson, of course, in 2013 when he trailed by 5 and won at Muirfield. Of course, when his first major, just boom, boom, boom. And unfortunately, Rory McIlroy, didn't look good that last, back that last front nine, and then things kind of sort of went, topsy-turvy for him after that. So I know right before we started, you said you watched a little bit of the Open. I told folks, for everyone who was listening and watching, I told them to watch the Open Championship at least a little bit, and you did just that, my friend.
That's right. I did it yesterday. Yeah, I did it yesterday for a total of 1 hour. Cameron Smith, that was a great performance. He came back and won. He was one of the 2 golfers that were sharp during the stretch. Cameron Young from the U.S. finished second with a -19. But Victor Hovland, Mike Tirico shared some of his story during the coverage yesterday. He was hanging around as well. I thought he was going to perhaps force a playoff. Obviously, that didn't happen. But Dustin Johnson, the other American next to Cameron Young, he was also in the mix, but he started to fade down the stretch as well. I think for him trailing going into yesterday ultimately did him in. But those holes, Lakeena, that I watched between 15 and 18, perhaps 19 as well. That is a very tough course over there in Scotland. I get why Tiger Woods, we talked about it on Friday, that he couldn't make it through because of his conditions. But that course, especially through those middle holes, they're very tough. You
Yeah,
got a
that
couple
yeah.
of traps there. You got
Yep,
the
sand
pond
traps.
there.
Yes.
And whoever is taking care of that grass, Lakeena, over there, the Chicago Park District can give themselves a pat on the back. They look worse than Soldier Field during a Bears game in November.
Yeah, that 14-18, those holes are, for people who've watched, the Open Championship for years, like I have, especially at St. Andrews. I've seen it look worse than that, with a little bit divots here and
Oh,
there and a
really?
little bit of sand. Oh yeah, I've seen it worse than that. I know, some people will think that, oh, wait a minute, but no, I've seen it worse. So don't feel bad about that. But the fact that Cameron Smith was able to shoot a 64, which is like the best among the best final score, tying with Hendrik Stitzer, who won it in 2016. Also, going back to Gary Player when he won the Masters in '78. Definitely the best score there. Cameron Young in his first, has done pretty well in the last couple of majors. He finished the top 10 in the Masters. He, of course, finished second. So he's definitely has a major in his future. Rory McIlroy, a 70. There's some of those holes. I mean, he's going to be smarting and such. Tommy Fleetwood made a little bit of a late run, but again, he was also too far behind too. But he finished tied for fourth with Victor Hovland. The nerves kind of got to him a little bit. He had a chance to take the lead in that first hole with a birdie putt, just missed it. And I don't know if it was Faraday or Roger Maltby, but one of them said it might have been a little nerves. I think it was Roger Maltby. I think the nerves kind of got to him a little bit. So I think that might have, and his nerves kind of got the best of him in the end. He did get it together a little bit, but, Cameron Smith was, just, putting, like crazy. Bryson DeChambeau had a nice little finish there with a 66 to finish in the top 10 as well. So yeah, so a solid, top finishers there. Of course, Xander Schauffele, he kind of went down a little bit, finished in 15th. And I think Scotty Scheffler, yeah, he went down to 21st, 74. That did him in the first, like that middle, like 13, 14. That kind of did him in as well. So he ended up finishing a tie for 21st. But yeah, it was a good Open Championship. And with all the live, rumors aside about the live tour, because there were rumors about now Smith's going to join the live tour. I know Henrik Stenson, who I just mentioned, who's supposed to be the Ryder Cup captain, he's supposedly going to be going to the live tour as well. So yeah, that aside, it was actually a great championship. Like usually is over at the Open.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy, I did watch the beginning of his tee time, and he did start out strong, but like you mentioned, he faltered down the stretch. And I thought Jordan Spieth, he was, I think he started his tee time around that same time that I watched. I thought he was going to make a run, but he quickly disappeared. And so I was looking at those two golfers specifically. Like you said, Cameron Smith, he was around, but no one thought that he was going to come back to do it. But it all comes down to fatigue and mental sharpness. And that's what happened with Mr. Smith yesterday.
Yeah, he was able to kind of bounce back. He really wanted this. Like we said, he was close at the Masters. He was right there at the U.S. Open. You could tell that he laser focused and he wanted that. And I know people call him Joe Dirt with the mullet and such. He was very, very soft spoken. You saw, a very sort of like, mellow guy and such. So very worthy champion. And I know Rory, I know this happened to him, the last time it was at St. Andrews. He loves that course. He plays there a lot. But like I said, that it just, that he wasn't able to put together the putts that he needed and such. I mean, it was just, unfortunate in the end. I know he had a couple of birdies, but the putter just wasn't working for him, unlike Cameron Smith, who was just nailing birdie after birdie. So this is another Open Championship that he's going to be smarting from. I'm talking about Rory, I mean.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, and I had this question in my mind this morning preparing for the show. Do you think that Rory McIlroy will become the next Phil Mickelson? He'll just win enough major championships to make the resume look good, but do you think he'll become the new Phil Mickelson in terms of choking and big time moments at major championships?
It'll be 8 years since he's won a major, and he's been close. He was close at the Masters, of course. Scheffler, he was right there from the U.S. Open. I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, look, he's been close, so I can see if he was like finished like top 20 or 25, but he's been close, for the last few majors. So you hope he can break through and get back in the winners circle at the majors. He has a couple of PGA Tour titles to his credit now too since then. So I don't know. It's just I hope he can. He's got the game to do it. Just gotta get the mental and get all that together. That's probably the only thing he can do.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports, the live and in living color, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Now let's go to some breaking news from the Chicago's West Side Hockey Club, i.e. the Chicago Blackhawks. According to various sources, including The Athletic, Eddie Olczyk, former Blackhawks player, and now you can add former TV color analyst to his resume. Negotiations broke down between him and the team last week. His contract expired at the end of June. He's still going to call games for the NHL on TNT, but Lakeena, it looks like he's going to look for a new home in terms of being an analyst for a team. It won't be with the Blackhawks, unfortunately.
Yeah, and apparently, according to Mark Lasser, that's who was the first to report this. Apparently, he was blindsided. I'm talking about Eddie was by this news, and yeah, I mean, yeah, as if they were just starting to kind of like get back into the PR. You let go one of the most beloved figures in the Blackhawks organization. He was probably like the last one left in that. Look, I understand they wanted a totally new face and the such, but this is definitely going to say for a lot of people, and this is a tough one, and I don't know. I mean, it's sort of I guess Jamie Faulkner, who is a president of business operations there. Apparently, she expected, and also Danny Wirtz too. They expected at least Ms. Faulkner that she expected Olczyk to come back. Apparently, that wasn't the case. So now look, and Mark Lazar actually had this Pat Foley gone, Eddie Olczyk gone, Alistair Brinkett gone, Dylan Strome gone, Dominic Kublik gone, Kirby Doc gone, Brandon Hagel gone, Kane and Taves. He said we'll see. He had this long pause to say we'll see.
Yeah.
Blackhawks TV ratings next season should be telling. That's the exact words he said verbatim from his.
You know what? He's correct.
Yeah. So I don't know. I know that who knows. I know Kobe Coleman's name has been floated around, but apparently they want him. They figure he's more suited for the studio. So Chris Vossers, who hopefully we'll get him on the show at some point. I know he's going to do the basketball tournament right now up over in Omaha. But Well, now he's going to be looking he's going to have a new TV partner too. So it's going to be interesting who fills that spot.
Yeah, there's some interesting names out there. Patrick Sharp's name's been thrown out there. Adam Burrish. You mentioned Kobe Cohen, but it looks like right now he's going to be in the studio for now. Chris Chelios' daughter, Kaylee Chelios, who did a fine job on TV and radio last season, will she be up as the main TV analyst, or will they kind of just do a rotation like they did this past season
when
Foley was retiring?
Yeah, would play like that's probably cool. They might do that. I mean, I know Chris has worked with all those guys. I know he worked with Kaylee Chelios, who was really good, a great analyst. Could she make history as will she be the first? I know there've been a couple. Well, maybe first like full time if they do go that route with her. I know Sharpie. I know, especially if they want to try and perhaps maybe lessen the blow for some folks. Maybe they do go with Sharpie or Adam Burrish or somebody like that. Maybe.
Or do you go after? I know he's done some games both on TV and radio for this past year, but do you go after Eddie's son, Nick Olczyk, who really gotten better as the season progressed?
He got better. So again, that could also soften the blow too. You get his oldest. He played in the league. Maybe. I mean, look, that would probably help a little bit. He's actually pretty good too. He said he got better and better as the season, the last couple of seasons. So I don't know. I mean, let's hope the Hawks can kind of get out of this one. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And so, like I said, that is breaking news from the Blackhawks. They came down about an hour and a half ago. You're listening to Second City Sports or Sports of Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, wrapping up today's show. We still have a few minutes left, Lakeena, and it's now time for, if I can get my screen back together, it's time for Old School TV Monday. For those of you that are watching on YouTube right now, I apologize for my screen going black, but this week, Lakeena, we will honor the ABC hit TV show Spin City. Yay, that's right. It aired from 1996 until May of 2002. Spin City is an American sitcom television series that was created by Gary David Goldberg and Bill Lawrence. The show is set in a semi-fictionalized version of the New York City mayor's office and originally started Michael J. Fox as Mike Flattery, the deputy mayor of New York. Fox departed in 2000 at the conclusion of season 4 due to symptoms of his Parkinson's disease, which he battled for the majority of his life. And Charlie Sheen became the new lead as Charlie Crawford for the final two seasons of that series. Of course, that show was based in New York. It was in political satire. And for yours truly, I know you can relate to this too, Lakeena. We both were in high school around this time. And of course, I graduated in 1999. We all learned how government works, the time of our U.S. government. But you really learned, at least I did, how the city government works. And I know the great Dorothy Tillman, the alderman here in Chicago, said all politics are local. We talk about the presidential election. I know the governor, the midterm elections are later on this year. But all politics are local. And you saw how the local government operates if you really paid attention to that show. It was a great cast. Alan Ruck from the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off in the 80s. He was great in that series. Of course, Michael Boltman, we talked about Arliss a couple of weeks ago. He was also a big part of that show. I believe he stayed all 6 years, but it had two crushes on the female actresses that eventually left the show. Connie Britton and Jennifer Esposito. Those two had the biggest crushes on during that time, which it was a great show. I know both of them were replaced by Heather Locklear from T.J. Hooker. For those of you older than us that remember that series, she came in with Charlie Sheen to help save that show the final 2 years of that show. But I really love that show. Michael J. Fox, it kept his name alive at that time. Of course, he was famous from the TV sitcom on NBC, Family Ties, in the 80s. That really bumped up his profile during Spin City. And I forgot, and I started listening to this podcast called Culture Pop, Lakeena. I don't know if you heard of this podcast.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, it comes from Steve Mason, who does Afternoon Drive on ESPN LA. The interview dropped yesterday, but remember Karen Duffy?
Yes, I remember. Yep.
Yeah, she was on that show during the first season. She started talking about that show. I only got the chance to listen to half of the interview, but guys, check it out. It's called Culture Pop, the podcast, and she's this week's guest on that podcast. She talked about, I forgot she was an MTV VJ for a short time before joining Spin City, but she's a mother now. I forgot what physical condition she had, but she talked about the challenges in that and being a mother and going through that show during the first season. It was a very interesting story. But getting back to the Spin City show, I really like that show, and for obvious reasons besides my two crushes on that show. But Michael J. Fox really made that work. Of course, let's shout out Barry Bostwick as well as mayor. He was goofy, he was silly, but he really played that part as well.
Yeah, of course, for people, those of you who are my age, he's, was kind of the king of the TV movies. He did a lot of television movies. He played mostly good guys. He did play a couple of bad guys in some of the movies, but I think this kind of showed that he had a good, comedic side to him as well. So he played that role very well. This is sort of like Veep before Veep was Veep. That's sort of kind of like, one would say that, Spin City walked so that Veep could run, or however that saying goes. But it kind of gave like a little humor side to politics, especially like in a big state like New York. So I actually like the series. I actually didn't start watching the series until after it started running and repeats, because I didn't watch it live. I did watch a few episodes. I liked it. It was cool, but look, Alan Ruck was someone I loved, some of the various work that he's done. Of course, Connie Britton, that's how she got her start in the comedy. People forget that before, Nashville and Friday Night Lights and such.
Yeah.
Her start was in a sitcom, believe it or not. And Richard Kind is someone who I've adored as well. Very funny.
He's kind of the dorky guy on that show, but he was very funny on that show
hilarious.
as well.
Yeah, he's hilarious and everything. And he did. Michael Bowman, of course, we all know. It was a little dramatic at times as well. That was hilarious. Carter was a little bit of a kind of like he wasn't like a caricature thing, because usually when there is a token, black person, they're usually caricatures. He wasn't like that, so he was kind of like the smart, kind of like cool, guy.
Yeah, you didn't mess with him. He was a funny dude, but you didn't mess with him.
No, you didn't. He took no prisoners. So I think that's I remember Michael said in interviews that's one of the reasons why he really liked that character. So in that sense, some of the, of course, Heather Locklear came on after, of course, Connie Britton, Jennifer Esposito, who I love too. They both left. They brought, they brought her on and such. Of course, Michael J. Fox, Gary David Goldberg, people forget, was one of the creators of Family Ties. when he developed this series, he had Michael in mind. Now, unfortunately, his Parkinson's progressed and he couldn't work anymore. He did win a couple of Emmys, during the series. So, adding that to his, I think he had like 6 or 7 Emmys in total to his credit, of course, with the numerous ones he won over when he was on Family Ties. But yeah, Charlie Sheen kind of gave it kind of like a fresh take. The chemistry between him and Heather was really good. They tried to play off that, kind of like a cat and mouse game. But you kind of felt that was sort of the end of that series once Michael left. But yeah, look, 145 episodes. That's I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. I'd be shocked if it's
it's on Pluto
streaming.
TV. I started watching it yesterday.
I thought I saw that on there too because I got Pluto TV as well.
Yeah,
I thought I saw
you can watch
that.
it for free if you have Pluto TV. Yeah.
All you need is an email, folks. That's all you need with Pluto TV. There are free apps out. There are free streaming services out there, folks. Yes. More than a few, but yeah, they're one of them. But yeah, it was a great show for what it was. Like I said, I think it was Veep before Veep was Veep. So I think that's kind of what it reminds me of.
Good comp, and good call. Also, too, shout out Victoria Dillard. Her character, of course, she's a reflection of us, if you know what I'm saying. And she was definitely not a token negative stereotype character either.
Yeah, I loved her. Janelle, I loved her as well. I know Denise Richards had a recurring role on that show for at one point. I think that's how she and Charlie Sheen met, I believe.
Yeah, who would have thunk it at the time?
Yeah, I know, right? Also, Jennifer Gardner, perhaps I think it was like pre-Alias. That was kind of one of her first starts. Also, Courtney Thorne-Siff, of course, she was on there for like the second season, I think.
Melrose Place before then, back in the 90s.
Yes. Oh boy. That was a friend of mine actually, said it was about 32 years, like 30 years before when that we won't go there. That makes me feel old there. But yeah, Daphne Zuniga also played. Had a recurring role on that show too, as well. Speaking of Melrose Place. So yeah, so many like great guest stars. Marsha Cross was on there as well. So so many really great. Alyssa Milano was there too, I think, but she was there during like the 3rd season. No, she was actually there during the Charlie years, I think. If I'm not mistaken, it's all kind of intertwined. I got to rewatch that show, but yeah, look, it was a great show. Like I said, it was political satire. It was very smart writing. Of course, it was very funny and such. So it was the way it was filmed. It was definitely different from a lot of the other sitcoms that were on at the time. But yeah, I think Spin City is definitely one of those shows that should get more of its due. But yeah, I think it's one of those shows that you'll appreciate more once you actually start watching it and watch the whole run of it. It was actually a really good, a solid show that doesn't really get its due, I feel like.
Yeah, so we salute to our Old School TV Monday show, Spin City from ABC from 96 to 2002. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Wrapping up today's show, the Monday edition, live in the living color. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, I know we're up against it, but if you have the map in front of you in terms of the brackets for tonight's home run derby contest, let's get our picks in before we close up shop.
Okay, let me open it up real quick. Now, talk a little bit about the MLB draft that's going on right now as we speak, and suddenly I feel old now. Okay, this was yesterday, folks. As I get my Jackson Holliday. Now, for those who don't know who his dad was former 8-time All-Star Matt Holliday from the Rockies. He was
getting old, Lakeena. We gotta accept it.
I know. And Drew Jones, of course, who is the son of Andrew Jones. The first time that's happened, like two former multiple All-Star players. Their sons went 1 and 2. Also, Justin Crawford, Carl Crawford's oldest son. I think he got drafted. Also, to Cam Collier, son of Lou Collier. He also got drafted after him. So. Oh goodness, I feel old now. Thank you, folks.
No gray hairs just yet.
No, thank Bill. Look, I don't have any. I swear. I can't find the.
I don't either. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't have the brackets, but I know Albert Pujols, I think will be the oldest to participate in the All-Star home run derby. That's kind of interesting.
Ronald Acuna Jr. is in there. I know that
he was the favorite, but I think I guess you want to go by odds. But I think Kyle Schwarber, I think is the favorite. I can't find the freaking brackets. I'm trying to find Pete Alonso, of course, from the Mets.
Yeah, he's trying to go for 3 in a row.
Yeah, which would be I think the first
I know
time
Corey
in a while.
Seager, I believe, is in there.
Yes, he is. I think he and Acuna are going to play each other. I think. I know Juan Soto. We talked about him earlier. He's a 4 seed. Julio Rodriguez, my guy from the Mariners.
I think he could be a good dark horse tonight. No pun intended.
Yeah, he could. Let's see. I think we got everybody. Jose Ramirez from the Guardians is another participant in the home run derby. Let's see if I think we got everybody. Yeah, we got that. That's 8, right?
Yeah.
Rodriguez. We got Who do you think's gonna win?
I'm gonna go with Julio Rodriguez of Seattle. I'll go with my dark horse pick. You can pick him if you want to, Lakeena. I know he's part of your Mariners, but
I mean, if you want to sort of be the sentimental pick and pick Pujols, I guess
that's too easy, and I don't think he's going to do as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go past the first round. I'll take the fair. I'll get Schwarber. I'll go chalk. He's a top. Schwarber's a top seed, so yeah, I'll go chalk.
All right, so you can catch the home run derby tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN. Of course, ESPN2 will have the StatCast version featuring White Sox announcer Jason Benetti and Jessica Mendoza. They'll be on the call for the alternate broadcast on ESPN2. I love the StatCast broadcast anyway because of Benetti and plus of what they do, and they also do it for the wild card game as well for the playoffs. So I'll be checking out the StatCast version of that. Of course, tomorrow on Fox at 6 p.m. Chicago time, you'll have the MLB All-Star Game. Joe Davis, Chicago's very own, and the Dodgers TV announcer during the regular season, will be calling his first All-Star Game for Fox.
Should be fun there with LA, and I think Clayton Kershaw has been named.
Yes,
the NL starter. Yeah.
So you folks in LA that wanted that, I hope you're happy now.
Yeah, I know. I think it's hilarious that Brian Snicker had to. I think he felt kind of the pressure. I know there was really that one, his guy, Max Fried, but I think he made the right decision picking Kershaw. I don't think who Dusty picked yet. I'm going to see if maybe that's out there. But you'll close us out, Sid.
All right, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. Excuse me, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
And it'll be Shane McClanahan from the Rays that'll get the start for the AL. So that's pretty cool. All right, so you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you download our podcast. We're available at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
You can listen to Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live and in living cover every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. And you can catch Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch us now on the Roku TV. You have a Roku television already? Just click on the sports section and download Sports Zone Chicago. If you don't have a Roku TV, you can download the Roku TV app. Make sure you go into the sports section and type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch our shows live or on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So make sure you catch Sports Zone Chicago and now on Roku TV.
And of course, our special thanks to Mark Grote of 670 The Score and the flagship Bears radio network on WBBM News Radio 780 here in Chicago. Also, you can follow him at Mark Grote Sports on Twitter. He's very funny, very engaging. Follow him. We forgot to mention his social media earlier, but yeah, you can follow him at Mark Grote Sports on the Twitter.
Yes.
All right, enjoy the All-Star weekend, everybody. Also, to the SPs. I know, it's that time of year, folks. There's really not much. Okay, if you like the WNBA, you can watch the WNBA. That's still going on as well. You have the SPs coming up on Wednesday with Steph Curry hosting. That should be interesting, and we'll see if his team wins the big one for Team of the Year. So, so there's some things going on, but I think a lot of us are probably going to be catching up on other stuff, chores, other TV shows, and whatnot.
Yeah, same here.
Right. So for stay cool out there. I know it's hot in pretty much like most of the country, especially here in the Midwest, in Chicago. But stay cool out there. If you're not going to be vaccinated, wash your hands, wear your mask, and just be good to each other and stay safe out there for all you know, with all the crazies that are happening. Just please stay safe.
Mm.
For Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Second State Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Till then, go Sox. Holla!